Tell us about Ocean Oracle.
Well, Ocean Oracle is actually a kit, and it comes with a couple of components. One is a companion book to explain the meanings of all the shells, so that's the educational aspect of this kit. But in addition to that, there are 200 cards. So it would be as if someone had 200 shells before them, and they're from all over the world.
And that would be like those cards we see on display there?
Exactly. These are the cards that you would
They
find
look
a
almost
sample.
like a deck of playing cards or flashcards.
Very similar.
Yeah.
And I also, because there's 200, I included sort of an overview sheet so that you can have at first a look at all the shells.
Okay, we're going to give our camera person time to
Oh,
zoom
I'm
in on
sorry.
that. That's okay, just hold it the way
Where
you
do I hold
are.
it,
We'll
right
see if
here?
we can get that on camera. We'll just pan down a little bit. Over 200 different shells.
Yes, there's actually 2 sheets, and you have to look on both sides, and you'll get 200.
Okay,
And
and do they, on there, they have numbers, and so that
Yes.
corresponds to the
To
explanations.
the deck, so
in
that
the-
if you're drawn to a particular shell, if you look at the number, all you do is find the card with the matching number. And the meanings are on the backs of the card, so you don't have to memorize anything. But the purpose of the book is if you say, why does she say that has that meaning? The book will explain, because the meanings come from the behaviors of the animals who make the shells, and some people aren't aware that actually any shell you ever see was made by an animal.
Well, I think many people, including myself, are not aware that there could ever be meanings to shells. How did you find this out? When did you become aware of this?
Well, I loved shells all my life. That aspect started from when I was very, very young, and the first time my grandparents came back from a beach vacation, which you're going to be having tomorrow, they handed their little granddaughter a couple of shells, and I was transfixed. My parents tell me this because I don't recall this, but they said, I just wanted to know everything about them. That never left me to this day. And so I started studying and finding anything I could about the animals that made the shells, how they've interacted with humans throughout history. And it turns out there's practically nothing they have in common. So when you're looking for a language, I'm looking for what's unique about this particular shell. And there's practically nothing that they have in common, so it becomes very easy to find its contribution to that language.
Really?
Would you like an example of that?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, anything that you look at in these animals' lives, anything, so let's take their anatomy. If you look at their hearts, there is a shell called a tusk shell, and in the books it literally said this animal had no heart. And as a young child I thought, how can anyone survive without a heart? But it leads a very sedentary lifestyle, and so the pumping of its foot circulates the blood through its body. On the other hand, an octopus is one of these animals. The octopus has 3 hearts. They're simple single chambers, but 2 go to the gills to absorb the oxygen, and then the 3rd circulates the oxygenated blood through its body. In between that, we have the quahog clam, which you may see when you go to the beach. The quahog clam has a 3-chambered heart with a pacemaker. We have a 4-chambered heart with a pacemaker. Their hearts are very similar to ours. They have no head, but just looking at hearts, you've got one now with no heart, one with 3 hearts, and one with a 3-chambered heart and a pacemaker. That's the diversity you can find in just looking at their hearts, and it turns out anything you look at has that much diversity.
And how did you learn all this?
Just through books. I lived in western Massachusetts, not near the ocean. Again, I have no reason why I was so fascinated by these animals for so long, but in reading the books, I learned a lot, and I thought it was common knowledge. And therefore, when I started doing shell reading, it was because someone saw my shells, told me that there was a shell reader he heard of, and I never knew of that concept, and I said, I'd love to go. And I was a shy person, but I hounded him for that information, and he never found it. So he sort of lit this spark that there's such a thing as a shell reading, and just to salvage something, he said, well, Shelley, why don't you use your own shells? And I responded saying, but everybody will know, this one builds a raft, and this is the principle of the submarine, and this is where the color purple comes from. And I was going on, never thinking about it before, but I'd studied it for so long. And he said, I honestly don't think everyone's going to know that.